Continuing our story, we are at the gladiatorial arena within the Hollow Earth's Telecon civilization. We see all the tribes pretty much gathered here for the match between Zilla and Namor. And each side basically discusses who's going to win. We see Natiri and her father, mother, and Sute all discussing who's going to win here. Mowat and Atu Khan, as well as Sute, all placed their bets on, obviously, their king, Namor. However, Natiri's opinion is a little bit different. She's betting on the outsider. She's betting on Zilla. And this is where we see Zilla and Namor both stop circling each other. And then the match is called. Begin. Within the blink of an eye, Namor immediately takes full advantage of Zilla being the slower of the two, if you will. Absolutely hitting him with pretty much every form of speed blitz barrage attack you could imagine. To which Zilla simply counters with an uppercut, sending Namor immediately reeling and flying almost out the arena. However, Namor is able to dive bomb and then performs a haymaker, which sends Zilla crashing into the water. This is when Namor dives in and takes full advantage of, well, Namor being a much more experienced fighter, obviously, in the water. He takes full advantage of this and begins to wail on Zilla underwater. However, Zilla is easily able to adapt to this and begins to swing right back on Namor, this time upping the intensity of his attacks. Namor begins to note how it begins to feel like Zilla is trying as the fight goes on, meaning that Zilla is basically holding back as it goes on here. And this is when they are interrupted by the janitor. Zilla is able to pretty much maneuver his way out of the janitor's path here, but then it goes to attack Namor. Namor is able to control it and cause it to basically freeze in place here. This is when Janitor basically turns around and tries to slam its jaws right into Zilla, only for Zilla to hold his mouth open and break its teeth. This is when Namor decides to just use it as kind of like his own personal, what's that word? Punching bag? Or, kind of one of his, basically he hits Zilla with it. And in retort, Zilla uppercuts him out the water, putting him right back onto the arena. As Zilla gets up and begins to approach Namor, who's actually shaken by this blow, Namor grabs his trident and then stabs it right into Zilla. It doesn't go deep because Zilla's hide is actually pretty thick, even in its human form. But Namor begins to hammer with it. He begins to try to drive it in him. He begins to hammer it in over and over and over again until he can reach Zilla's heart. However, Zilla catches the last blow and begins to basically work Namor at that point. But then Namor retaliates. Basically what we have here is a little bit of back and forth between the two, okay? They keep just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, over and over and over again. And this is when Sute notes that Namor is getting the upper hand due to his weaponry. And this is when Natiri says, I wouldn't count him out just yet. Meaning she wouldn't count Zilla out just yet at this time. And lo and behold, Zilla turns the tide with a single punch here. This punch actually puts the full force of pretty much he just doesn't hold back at this point. He punches Namor as Namor tries to get up and fly. He grabs him by his leg, by his wings, more or less by his wings, but more by the ankle area where his wings are, and he begins to essentially just dominate Namor from that point forward. Basically, he's just, it begins to become a dog walk at this point here. Namor tries to drop him underwater again, and he manages to do it. However, as soon as Namor goes in for a tackle, this is where Zilla takes full advantage. Now in a full-on grappling contest, he takes full advantage of this and uses his superior strength to basically just ragdoll Namor. All right, Namor gets ragdolled at this point, just straight up floored, munched, minched. He gets comboed under the water. Zilla moves faster. He moves stronger. He's hitting harder, and a lot harder than Namor expected. This is when Zilla pretty much tackles him out the water and slams him, kind of like just, Charizard seismic tosses him right into the arena. A little bit of a crater, and he pretty much pins Namor. To which Namor eventually concedes and says he yields. This actually shocks everyone. From the Metakaya to the Omadikai to the Telokan, every, Navi and Atlantean respectively is shocked by this. No one has ever beaten Namor in direct combat, despite their traditions. And Neytiri actually states to her family, as expected. Meaning she actually expects him to win. But what shocks them the most is where he actually dives right back into the water and grabs the janitor. He actually is able to break a good section of the arena and lets the janitor pretty much just run free. It's free to go. He lets it go and he lets it flee. Now, fast forward a couple hours after here where Zilla is recovering, Neytiri asks him to basically see the king. To which Zilla isn't really up for it, as, well, for some reason he's not trusting of Namor. At least not yet. And this is to which Neytiri and him actually begin to bond with each other at this moment. Pretty much telling each other their life stories, if you will. Basically explaining to each other how they got here, how, Neytiri actually states how her people became in contact with the Talokans over the years and stuff. And yes, I will make a full detail of that if you guys would like it. Maybe I'll make it as a bonus chapter. However, they are both interrupted by Namor himself, who actually took it upon himself to see Zilla personally. They both seemingly, well, all three of them pretty much walk together. And Namor begins to explain what he wants from Zilla. Zilla at first is really hesitant on it, but the favor Namor asks him, as now he's considered a part of the kingdom, is for him to help him subjugate some titans. To which Zilla is very concerned about this. What does he mean by subjugate? And what he is saying is he wants a titan army, an army that could pretty much belong to his people. He asks for the Photodon, the Warbat, and the Shimida. Okay? So he asks for all three of these monsters, and he wants them for specific purposes. The Photodon, obviously, for land-based combat, and their high armor gives them, like, extreme resilience. The Shimida is for underground, combat, being able to infiltrate bases and stuff like that. And the Warbat, obviously for aerial and some, small forms of, those kind of combat. At first, he's hesitant upon it, but he does decide to honor the deal as it gets Namor off his back. So with him and Neytiri actually helps navigate the area, and she actually says they're going to pretty much the Temple of the Kongs in this situation, as that's where some of the Photodons actually, nest in this area. Zilla is at first, a little bit annoyed by it, but Neytiri tells them if they do this, they don't have to really worry about, Namor anytime soon here. So in all honesty, it's kind of like a do it and just get it over with kind of situation. They spot the nest of the Photodons, and Neytiri makes her move, snatching at least 5 eggs before being seen by the parents. Luckily for her, excuse me. Luckily for her, Zilla is actually there to step in and help. So Zilla actually begins to, distract the Photodon parents with himself, actually engaging with them, but not actually hurting them. He tells Neytiri to leave half of the clutches as they still need to raise up more, and it wouldn't be fair if they, took all their kids. I mean, geez, y'all, chill. We can't take all the kids here. I'm just saying. So what he does is he actually uses his tail and uses it to kind of like just push the photodons around. They can't really harm him, and he's not willing to harm them. So essentially, it's kind of like a passive-aggressive situation, if you will. Zilla then spews out his atomic fire, and then the photodons get to pretty much running away from their nests. They repeat this here with the warbats as they're stealing, a clutch of 5, and, they're just taking them entirely. And then with the Shimada, they have to dig them up out the ground and then proceed to kind of like, I guess you could say, wrestle them into submission, if you will. Now, this takes around, let's say it takes around 6 months to fully get everyone and everything that Namor needs. At first, Namor's impressed, but he wants more, obviously, right? He wants more. And Neytiri stands up to him and tells him that they can't keep doing this as this is pretty much disrupting the natural flow of nature. Namor gets up preparing his trident, and this is when Zilla steps in front of her. And Zilla tells him, just name the rest of them and it'll be done. To which Namor gets a specifically devious smile on his face. He then names the rest, Titanus Behemoth. And so the task is simple. They take the babies and they raise them up. Titanus Tiamat. Zilla is actually able to go back to the surface and get the regular Tiamat that he was able to subjugate before. And this one apparently knows where the rest of his species is. Her species is. And this winds up with Zilla getting more Titanus Tiamats, having them breed, having them lay their clutch of eggs, or if they give live birth, either or, and then thus taming that said species. So with Tiamat being used for obviously aquatic combat, being kind of like this, hydrokinetic monster, and Behemoth being basically used as not only a beast of burden, but as more or less tanks, if you will. During this time, Neytiri and Zilla both fall head over heels for each other. But at this time, they're not really willing to go forward with it just yet. The reasons why, it's just they do think it's a bad time. However, Zilla eventually frees Titanus Tiamat from its chains from the previous part, and then enlists it in Namor's army. Unfortunately, both Tiamat and Nakika have a conversation with Zilla. Well, fortunately, Zilla and Tiamat have a conversation with Zilla at this time about Namor and what his, I guess you could say, what his true intentions are. The fact that Namor is impure and that he's going to be a problem in the near future. Now, during this conversation, Zilla eventually sees Neytiri riding on an Elu, making sure that, everything's fine, making sure that the Titans don't really get a little rambunctious, if you will. And this is when he decides to make his move. But before he does that, he actually does, swoop her up and does have a conversation with her about what Namor's true intentions are with the Titans. Neytiri is, she's a little upset by this at this time as well. The real answer is they don't know. They think Namor wants to improve the kingdom, but he seems like he's planning something a bit more devious. However, this is cut off when Zilla decides to kiss Neytiri. And this is where we'll be leaving it off here, you guys. So, Namor has these intentions that we don't really know about. Or, what is he trying to do? What is he trying to start? That will be answered in the next 2 chapters. So, be sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and share with your friends. And I'll see you guys later for the next chapter. Peace.